So 2020 was probably the most ideal time, if any, for people to start getting into board games. I mean, we were confined to the four walls of our house, and outside of those walls, there was really nothing else to do. You could grocery shop, start a new hobby, hike, play Call of Duty, or open up the closet and take out all those board games that were collecting dust from elementary school. For me personally, board games and I have a little bit of a weird relationship. I mean, there was Twister, and that was okay, but not really a board game. But then there was also Monopoly, and I hated it. I just liked shuffling through the paper money. But once I got into my college years, I got introduced to some board games by friends, which I actually liked, started my own collection, and now brings me to the one we're talking about today. And this is Technically.
Let's go. Let's go.
Lords of Vegas. So this one's interesting because it's not really your grandparents' board game or your parents' board games. And if you're watching this video, you probably know what the heck this thing is. It only came out in 2010, so it's relatively new, having only been released in the last decade, and it's now out of print. So your only look at finding this is yard sales, eBay, or your obscure Google searches. But recently, the original creators of this game, which are Lone Shark Games, they acquired the rights to it, and for the 10th anniversary, which was this past year, they decided to do a Kickstarter and make some different rewards available for all the patrons who've enjoyed the games over the years. I wasn't able to be a part of the original Kickstarter campaign when it launched, so I had to kind of find this on my own after the fact. But even so, I'm really glad that I got my hands on it because it's kind of a sight to behold. Usually it wouldn't come in this kind of case. It would come in a regular cardboard box with the game art on it. But this is one of the rewards, the highest, second to highest reward that the Kickstarter campaign offered. And we're not gonna talk about it, we're gonna show you. So the suitcase itself is actually this leather material, which I was a little skeptical about. I wasn't sure how it was gonna feel in person. Thought it was gonna feel a little bit cheap and flimsy, but it actually holds up really well. It's really sturdy and heavy. It's hefty. I would probably say on the side of maybe between 10 and 15 pounds. It really does have a lot of heft to it because of the tray inside. But once you flip it around, you open up the latches, and inside are all the game components, just like a regular, like little poker tray inside. It's felt lined, which is really soft to the touch. A lot of attention to detail. There's no little obscurities or anomalies that I was able to find. And inside you have a condensed version of the games. So what it includes is the base game as well as 2 expansions, so to speak. The base game is what you would find normally in that cardboard box, but if you want to play with up to 6 players, you need the expansion called Up. And then in honor of the 10th anniversary, they decided to offer one of the expansions that was never released, and that's called Underworld. If you were one of those original Kickstarter patrons, then you would have gotten all 3 separate boxes and you would have compiled it into this one. The person that I had gotten this from already did all the consolidation, so I didn't need any of the other boxes because everything can just live in the single briefcase. But you do get the different rule books. You have the rules for the base game as well as the 2 expansions, but you really don't need these. You can toss them aside if you have the set because Lone Shark Games was nice enough to include an all-in-one booklet. It has all the rules for the base game and the expansions in a smaller little package. And then you also get the board pieces themselves. This one is for the Underworld expansion, which would live right atop of the regular set. This one is folded in quarters. You have what looks like the Vegas Strip in its old original glory days. Places to put all your cards, put all your place markers. We'll get into this in a little bit. We're not going to go over the details of how to play the game because there are plenty of videos on that already. We're just going to talk about the set that is included with the Mob Boss bundle. So inside the briefcase, it actually included a lot of upgraded components compared to the original game. They have spaces for the chips, which replace the paper money. They have places for the tiles, your risers, cards, player markers, all that such. Originally, the game came with paper money, which a lot of people didn't really like. People would have rather preferred the poker chips to keep with the Vegas theme. So they went ahead and did just that and gave us poker chips. And they actually have a nice little weight to them. Lone Shark Games called is, they said, a metal chip inside the middle and like a high polycarbonate plastic, I think, on the outside to make it feel like a clay chip. So it's not clay per se, but it does feel like one. Sounds like one too. So they actually have different variations of the chips themselves. They have 1, 2, 5, 10, and 25 million increments, which is a step up because I think they only had 1, 5, 10, and 20 million in the paper. So we actually have an increment of 2, which is nice. Each chip is for the particular, they kind of match with the casinos that you can get on the board. So for example, the 5 million, which is red, it coincides with the Pioneer. I don't believe it has anything to do with the gameplay, doesn't affect it or anything. It's just a little thematic addition, whereas the paper money just had some Vegas characters like Frank Sinatra and Elvis featured on it. Another upgraded portion would be the upgraded player markers and parking lot. In each player bag, you get the original dice that you would normally get in the base set, but you also get these wooden cars in different colors, which coincide with whatever player you are, and they replace the little plastic see-through chips that you would get with the original base game. I thought that was a nice touch because the little wooden cars really add a nice little thematic element, because it is called a parking lot, so you put your cars in the place where you would normally put those little plastic chips to hold your spot if you plan on purchasing that casino. Really cool. And then they also give you little airplanes for your particular color, also wooden, so that way you can keep track of your score rather than some other little plastic circular markers, which are kind of generic. These additions were a really nice touch, which kind of propelled me to want to get the Mob Boss bundle, because not just the clay chips, but also these player pieces, they really helped kind of bring the game together and bring the Vegas theme to life, in my opinion. Some people may not care for it, but I think it was a really nice touch that Lone Shark Games did in honor of the 10th anniversary, in addition to the briefcase itself. Another neat little addition would be the ability to remove the tray in case you want to bring all your playing components outside of the briefcase. There is some space here where you can keep your player pieces, and then this space is available if you want to store something during game time or if there's a discard pile or anything like that. But you can just close the briefcase and use all the components from here and dish out your poker chips. So it's a little convenient addition that replaces just the standard plastic tray that you normally get with the base game. Now, all the other little components here are mostly included with the base game. You have your standard casino tiles, but you also have an addition because of the up expansion. So you have 2 slots here, which are for the risers. Risers allow the ability to add 2 more players to the game. I haven't personally gotten to use this expansion yet, but essentially you would add risers to elevate your casinos rather than expand outwards. You would expand upwards, hence the name. And the rules slightly change a little bit, not too much, but it allows the addition for more people to be able to participate, so that way there is more space to accommodate casino growth. And then you have the Underworld expansion cards, which add another element to the game. I haven't gotten to use this one either, this is brand new to me, but there's cards which have different prices to pay for the different perks that you get with the cards. There are other videos that talk about it, and it's just an element that adds on to your Lords of Vegas experience. You have these dice which seem a little bit oversized. I'm not really sure if those are the original dice from the base game, but you have these oversized dice as well as your standard casino cards, which are underneath all my player pieces. Nothing different there, just your standard casino cards. So that is pretty much it that gets included in here. But one additional piece that we haven't talked about yet is the actual board, because we have the 2 cardboard boards that they gave us, which you would normally get in the regular standalone game, but Lone Shark Games did surprise us with an additional element to the Mob Boss bundle. So with additional expansions, you also need room to accommodate for all of that. So Lone Shark Games went ahead and included a neoprene mat of the Lords of Vegas playing board, as well as the additional area for Underworld. This I was actually really stoked for, because instead of just this cardboard little foldable board, you actually get this neoprene mat, which feels very nice to the touch. It's bendable, it's foldable, you can be a little bit rough with it and it's not gonna rip, tear, anything like that. Whereas I feel like with the cardboard boards that we're so used to having with all board games, have to have a little bit more TLC with them. This one, obviously you don't want to spill anything on it, but this has a much more premium feel to it. I hate that word premium, but you get what I'm saying. So it includes the regular board, which is Lords of Vegas. You have the slots to put your cards, and then up here you have an area where you can put your Underworld cards, And here you have an area to store your tiles and your risers. Everything else pretty much just plays the same. It's just an all-inclusive mat that has a space for all the boards that you would normally get with the regular games and expansions consolidated into one place. So it has a little bit of organization and convenience to it, and I really like it. It unfortunately doesn't fit in the briefcase. Even if you were to fold it up, you could probably try to get it in there, but rather than try and force it in there, I've just carried it separately so far, but it's really not a big deal for me personally. I'll just carry it alongside the briefcase if I have to. So with this particular version of the game, there's a lot of questions surrounding whether it's worth it or not to get it. So the first question is, why did I pick this? I mean, there's a lot of board games, obviously. I particularly liked this one because my friend introduced me to it and I had a lot of fun with it. There's the thematic element of Vegas. You get to gamble, sprawl for casinos, you get to expand on the strip. It's just, I think, a different take on board games that I'm used to playing, and I really liked it. I wanted to add it to my own personal collection, and since I didn't own the game already, it was just perfect timing that this was available for me to get rather than just the standalone game. So I'm glad Lone Shark Games did a 10th anniversary version because I love stuff like this, which is another part to the question. I ultimately went with this because I like limited edition releases, things that are limited run or maybe numbered, stuff like that. I'm really a fan of, so this was no different, where it's the 10th anniversary version of the original game, and I think it was done really well. So Lone Shark Games did a good job putting this together. But that kind of segues into question 2. Do you need it? For me, since I didn't own the game, it made more sense to go for this because I didn't have any form of the game at all. I didn't own the original game, I didn't own any of the expansions, so it just made sense for me to go ahead and splurge a little bit and get this, because with the Kickstarter campaign it was $300, and because someone decided to scalp it and sell it, then they upcharged it a little bit. Ultimately, I'm glad I got it because there aren't many of these around, so I like it for the sake of having a little bit of a collector's item, and it made sense for me to get it since I didn't own the game. If you, on the other end, have Lords of Vegas already and you're wondering if you should get it, I would say save your money. I don't think there's enough value in it to be able to upgrade your current set. There are some cool things like the briefcase, the neoprene mat, the upgraded game pieces, but beyond that, really plays the same. There's no updated art visuals or anything like that. The board game is still the same art style. The cards are still the same art style. So perhaps they'll do something where for 15th or maybe even 20th anniversary where they will update those, but for the time being, if you already have the original game, I don't think this is something you need. I would say just save your money and wait. Also brings us to the question that most people want to know. Was this worth the money? I mentioned that this was a $300 campaign reward if you did the original Kickstarter, but since I wasn't part of that campaign and I had to buy it from someone else, I paid a little bit extra. That aside, if we're just talking about the campaign price of this, I would say yes, it was worth it, but only based on the answers I gave earlier. This is worth it if you haven't already gotten a copy of Lords of Vegas. So if you don't have the original game, you don't have the base game or the expansions, this would be a worthy investment for you to add to your collection, because just imagine you're coming into game night, set this briefcase on the table, unlatch, and then you're ready to play. I think this is a very impressive setup for what Lords of Vegas is. It really sells like the theme of Vegas. I know I say theme a lot, but that's pretty much what this is all about. The fact that it's in a briefcase, you open it up, you have poker chips, you have the little airplanes for McCarran Airport, you have the cars for your parking lot. It's a really all-encompassing game, and the fact that there's a lot of attention to detail with this particular version, I think made it well worth the money that I spent. But if you already have the game, I would say this would not be worth your money to upgrade to, because you get these cool little pieces, but how much are these pieces really worth to you? Do you want to spend another $300 to upgrade a version of the game you already have? Probably not. So maybe you can find your own poker chips on Amazon and make your own little set, but I would say it would not be worth your money if you already have the game. There's a lot of cool pieces that were added into this Mob Boss bundle. There's a lot of cool upgrades from the original base game. Not enough to justify seeking this out and paying for it if you already own the game. But if you're a first-time comer to Lords of Vegas and you want to get your own really cool limited edition version of the game, see if you can find yourself one of these. I promise it would be worth it to go ahead and whip out this briefcase on the next game night. And the fact that they included this neoprene mat is just like the cherry on top, because I really enjoyed having everything consolidated in one place versus having a couple different boards that you have to whip out. This is really nice to just carry around with you, as well as have everything fit into where it goes in here. So really looking forward to playing this on the next game night, trying the Up expansion as well as Underworld, and seeing how well those fit into the game I've already been used to playing for a while. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to leave a like and a comment below, and actually leave some recommendations for some games you played with your friends, board game nights, because I'm always looking to add to my collection. If you get the chance to get the Mob Boss bundle though, jump on it, because I'm sure the opportunity would go quick. Or if you stick with the original print of the game, that's fine too. Either way, Lords of Vegas is a good time regardless. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and stay on the lookout for upcoming videos where we're going to be talking about more tech and toys I'm adding to my collection. Until then, catch you later.
Let's go.